Now we are ready to move on to reporting our results. So this is where you're going to tell the reader what happened in the experiment. What did the data show you? So you're not going to talk about your hypothesis or anything like that here. You're just reporting what you found. So I'm going to go over here to this other tab where I have a Google Sheets document in which I have my raw data. So this is the data that was collected as I was conducting the experiment. So for this example, 14 people were tested with just a rock, the same shape as the quartz, and then the numbers indicate how they indicated their mood change. So 0 means their mood did not change, 1 means they said their mood increased by 1, etc. And then we also have 14 people that were tested with rose quartz, and then 14 people, no object was used for that. So that's my raw data. I would not put this table on my document because it's hard to understand what I'm seeing here. I literally cannot tell by looking at it whether one of these treatments was more effective than the other. So I'm going to start by doing a mathematical calculation. So we're going to crunch some numbers here. For my lab reports, you have to include at least one mathematical calculation and at least one graph or model. So to start here, let's crunch some numbers. I'm going to go down to the bottom of this data set and click on the cell right below. I'm going to have the actual software do some of the math for me. I don't want to punch all these numbers into a calculator, so I'm going to use kind of a shortcut. So first thing you do is press equals, and then this puts we're in like formula mode here. So now it's just waiting for me to say what exactly I want it to do with the numbers. So you can see you could do sum or average. I want to find the average, so you would type out the word average, start parentheses, and then drag all the cells that you want it to include in that average. I press enter, and then it tells me exactly what my average is. It's really easy. I did not want to type that into a calculator. So then what's even easier is I don't have to type that formula again. I can just grab this little square here, this little blue square, drag it over, and then it's almost like just dragging that template, that formula, over to these other two spots. Now I have the average for all 3 treatment groups. And so I could present these 3 numbers as a table, a nicely formatted table in my lab report, but I'm gonna instead make a chart. I'm gonna make a graph. So I have to make kind of like a little mini table over here. So one of my treatments is a control rock. The next one is rose quartz. The next one is no object. And then I'm going to put the averages. And I'm going to round this because these numbers are kind of hard to look at. 1.64 and 1.21. Okay, so once you have like a little table ready of what you want your graph to have in it, you highlight the cells, go to Insert, Chart, and it is going to guess what you want it to do right here. It may be wrong. In this case, okay, it guessed wrong. I did not want a pie chart. That is not, I'm trying to compare groups. So as you hopefully know, comparing groups is best done with a bar graph. So if you just click where it says pie chart right here, you can select a different type of chart and it'll change it for you. So you can see I can easily compare the average of each of these groups by looking at this graph, but it really doesn't do a great job. So I can go here to customize and then change some things. You can change the font if you want to. I'm going to add a title, so I'm going to say average subject mood change. Oops, change. And then it'll add the title at the top for you, which is nice. And then if we go here to series, I'm going to add error bars, which shows the amount of error between and within these groups, which is nice to have. You can even have the data labeled, so you can see now the reader can directly see what the average is, not just compare. And so that is going to be sufficient for me. I'm happy with this chart, so I'm going to copy and then go to my results and paste. You can link to spreadsheet so that any changes you make in the spreadsheet will also be made in the Google Doc, or you can paste unlink and it basically just shows a photo of the chart. So I'm just going to paste unlinked. Okay, so there we go. We have our first chart. So every time you make a chart or add a table or something like that, you also need to add a caption. The caption is very important. It shows you the purpose of the table or graph, and then it also tells you, kind of evaluates the accuracy of the table or graph. Like, what does it show you and what doesn't it show you? So it tells you a little bit about the limitations as well. So I already have a caption made, so I just pasted that in. So the table shows the mean or average subject reported mood changes for those exposed to rose quartz, the control rock, or no object. So this first sentence is literally just describing what is shown. Then I give you a little bit more information here. 14 unique subjects were tested for each treatment group to generate the data. The mean calculation represents the typical value of a series of numbers, but it fails to give information about the variation in a set of values. So this sentence is literally like the definition of mean or average. That's what that calculation means, no pun intended. So I include that as well to help the reader understand, what does this mean? Why am I showing this? So that's sufficient for this first graph. But I can actually go even further. If you think about what I'm asking in this experiment, I'm trying to show that rose quartz is not significantly better at changing your mood than any random rock or if no object at all. However, if you just look at this graph and you don't know anything else about this, you might think that it does have an effect. That's because these numbers haven't been evaluated using any statistical tests. So I'm going to do a statistical test with this data to see if the differences here, they could be attributed to chance, or if we can actually attribute it to the variable and say, wow, this is significantly more than what we would expect in the other groups. So I'm going to do a statistical test called a one-way ANOVA. So you can't actually do this within a Google Sheet. However, there are calculators online. So this one works really well. It tells you at the top what ANOVA test does. ANOVA test for independent measures is designed to compare the means of 3 or more independent samples or treatments simultaneously. So it's going to tell us whether there is a significant difference between our treatments or even within each treatment as well. So I've already pasted my data in the boxes provided. As far as significance level, standard for this is 0.05, meaning it'll be accurate within 5%. I've always seen 0.05 used. And then you click calculate, and it's going to give you some very confusing looking stuff. And to be honest, I don't even know what half of this stuff means. The key information here is this part down here. The result is not significant. So the difference between and within groups is it could be attributed to chance. It's probably random. And we can say that within 95% accuracy. So I want to report these results on my test, on my lab report, as if to say, yes, there's a difference, but it's not statistically significant. So basically what you can do is you can just screenshot this little results right here with your p-value, or you can make your own little table if you want it to be formatted exactly how you want, which is what I did because I'm really picky about that sort of thing. So here I just made a little table which tells you everything including the p-value. Which, as it states right here, anything, I don't remember where it says it, anything less than 0.05 is not significant. And so you can see that this value is lower than that. So that is what I'm going to report on my lab report. Same with the chart, you also have to make a caption for this. kind of communicating the same information. So here's what I created. So table 1, the table above shows the F ratio and the p-value of a one-way ANOVA test comparing 3 treatments. One-way ANOVA test is a statistical test which compares the data of 3 treatment groups to determine if there are significant differences between and within groups. This, I didn't make this up. This is just what it said that the test does. So I'm saying the purpose of showing it here, I'm comparing 3 treatments, finding differences between and within groups, and then a little bit more information for the reader as well, because they may not be aware. A p-value less than 0.05 is considered not significant. So even if they have no idea what any of this stuff is, which you probably don't understand what any of this stuff is, they can still read this caption, look at this value, and understand that it was not significant. The difference is not significant. So for me, these 2 objects are, and then their captions are plenty for the results section. So you don't have to, for my class, you don't have to write a paragraph explaining these results. You can kind of just let the data and the figures speak for themselves here, and then when you get to the conclusion, you can really dig into what this means and how it relates to your hypothesis. So that's all you need for results.